This is the first time I've ever tried to write this down. This is my first time telling anyone outside my family. I'm leaving out time and location and some other details because I'm still scared of what might happen with this being public, I guess. It was the summer before 8th grade. Me and two of my friends snuck out at midnight to go walk around the neighborhood and see these girls in the next block who were having a sleepover. We turned a corner in our neighborhood and there was this huge black blimp-shaped thing in the sky. Like the pictures of the Hindenburg, but even bigger, and as close if not closer. It was completely silent and the size of at least 4 to 5 football fields across. No exaggeration. We stared at it, entranced, asking each other over and over again if we saw it, which we all agreed that we did. Standing there, frozen in one place. It was like black polished gunmetal. No lights, no sound, no anything. It was just hovering there. And then, I don't know what happened, but time clearly jumped. The next thing I remember is the craft, or whatever the hell it was gone. And there was this tiny glowing white barbell-like thing in the sky, seemingly falling to earth with wisps of smoke coming off of it. Then 2 brand new black trucks with silver gearboxes on the back like F-150s or S-10s but nicer came speeding down the street going about 70 in a residential neighborhood. After that, I remember walking home to one of my friends' houses and going to bed. At that point, it was like 5 or 6 a.m. and the sun was coming up. We made a promise to tell my dad in the morning because he worked for the city, but we never did. Over time, I lost touch with everyone who was there, except my best friend. We sort of made an unspoken pact never to talk about it. I don't know how or why we did that. Anyway, we all grew up and I sort of ended up losing touch with him too. We did reconnect over Facebook and such over the years, but it was like there was something between us that neither of us wanted to touch or talk about. Looking back on it now, there's no way we could have been the only ones to see it. It wasn't that late at night, and it was over a heavily populated suburb of a major city. The idea of this has always scared me more than any sort of possible abduction scenario. That there were others, and we're all voluntarily suffering a sort of collective amnesia. I've thought about hypnosis, but that scares me too, and plus I'm not sure if I'd trust the results. I was just a kid then, and I'm not even sure if I could trust the hypnotist. What I do know, though, is there's no way just the 3 of us saw it. But there was nothing on the news, or in the paper, on TV. It was never spoken about again, ever, by anyone. I know this all sounds crazy and hard to believe, but this is a true story that actually happened. And there's no way I'm the only one who remembers. No way. So this story didn't actually happen to me. It happened to my mom and her best friend Lisa. When my mom and Lisa were teenagers, they were up on the roof of Lisa's house and they saw a bright light in the sky. Next thing they knew, the light was gone. The thing is, they thought they had been on the roof for like 15 minutes, but it had actually been like 3 hours. Mom didn't remember anything about what happened during that time, and Lisa simply refused to talk about it. She would answer my mom with things like, "I don't know," and just drop it for a long time. So a couple months later, my mom moves away and loses contact with Lisa for about 10 years. She finally meets up with her again and immediately notices that there's something odd about Lisa. Lisa appeared very distant to her with a very dreamy demeanor. Like she was really happy and at peace for no good reason. After they talked for a bit, Lisa brought up the incident on the roof. My mom said she still didn't really remember anything about it, but Lisa did. She remembered everything. She said that at first it was all in bits and pieces, and she couldn't remember any of it clearly. She was confused and scared and wanted to avoid discussing it. But then as time passed, she began to remember more and more of it. She remembered it all clearly, and she also remembered the other 3 times she was abducted after that as well. At first, they paralyzed her somehow and did all sorts of invasive experiments on her, but by the most recent time, they stopped probing her and began to talk with her. They didn't speak English or any other human language, but she could understand everything they were saying, even though she couldn't speak their language herself. Apparently, they told her all sorts of things, stuff about space, Earth itself, and most shockingly, predicted years beforehand that she would get pregnant on a specific year and that it would be a stillborn. They told her she'd never be able to have children again, and they also told her it wasn't their fault, that they had even made an attempt to save her from this fate but were unsuccessful. They told her that they had abducted my mother another time as well after the first incident. My mom said she had no recollection of any other potential abductions, but that she does have recurring nightmares of being abducted, but she's almost sure that they're just that, nightmares. Anyway, Lisa tells Mom that every time she speaks with them, she comes to understand the truth more and more. When Mom inquires what the truth is, Lisa just says, "You'll know eventually." And she says that once she learned of the truth, then everything became wonderful. Mom has seen her a few more times over the years. Apparently, she has a pretty normal life and doesn't obsess over alien stuff like some abductees do, or so I've heard. She only ever brings it up in passing, not like it's a central part of her daily life. I work a pretty easygoing office job, and I consistently listen to podcasts while I do my work. That being said, I've always had an interest in the paranormal and unexplained, so that's typically what I'll listen to. I was listening to an interview by Astonishing Legends with Terry Lovelace about the things he encountered and what he experienced from a camping trip in Devil's Den back in the 70s. To sum it up, he touched on what happened to him, and a couple of things stood out to me. It reminded me of something that happened to me as a kid that I always chalked up to sleep paralysis, but now it has me second-guessing myself. I must have been in about 3rd or 4th grade. At the time, we lived kind of on the edge of a bunch of farmland and woods. Our backyard opened up to our neighbors who owned acres upon acres of land. And to the left of that was just endless farmland and forest. We lived a few miles away from a really popular and huge dairy farm, but we were also a mile or 2 out from the main road that leads to town. I guess the point I'm getting at is that we were kind of secluded but not completely isolated. The Midwest is like that at times, I guess. My room at the time was in the basement, and the stairs that led down to it was right in front of our back door. I slept with my bed right in front of the bedroom door as well. It was summer break, and after I finally decided I was tired, I went to lay down in bed. My memory goes in and out at that point, and there are missing spots in between because I think as soon as I laid down, I just blacked right out. I remember I woke up right after passing out, and I'm not sure how much time passed between those 2 points, but I immediately looked at the foot of my bed, and the door to my room was wide open, and there was this blinding light outside my room. I remember seeing this figure right in the doorway. I couldn't make out any distinct features because of the light coming from behind it. All I could see was an outline in the shape of how it looked. It must have been not that much shorter than me, as I was a kid at the time, probably around 4 foot, I think. It had a huge bulbous head and a tiny body. In retrospect, it was shaped like a grave, but I don't know if that's cliche to say. I just remember this utmost primal sense of fear, and I couldn't move. I've never experienced that level of horror before, and I haven't felt that feeling since. I was laying on my back in the bed, and all I could do was stare at it. I was trying to scream, but nothing would come out of my lungs, and I couldn't get up to run out or anything. I was completely paralyzed to that spot. I blacked out again, and when I came to, it was closer, right at the end of my bed. At that point, I tried screaming again, and still nothing would come out. Then I blacked out again. I came to that morning at the opposite side of my room, flopped across this little couch I had. It's hard to explain it because there's nothing in between these points of time. It's just a blank spot. I tried to explain to my mom, but she just chalked it up to sleepwalking and a nightmare. She figured maybe I stayed up too late or something like that. For a while after that, I was horrified to watch any form of alien movie or even just anything on TV that resembled what that thing was shaped like. I'd have a full-blown panic attack and start hyperventilating. Thankfully, I've gotten past that and it doesn't really get to me anymore. However, I still to this day cannot sleep with my bed in front of my door or with my door open. I don't even like sleeping near the door. I need to be as far away from it as possible. Even during the day, if I'm doing something in the room and I need to have the door closed, having it open sends this massive feeling of discomfort and anxiety. I can't do it. I've experienced weird things throughout all my life, but after a while and with growing up, I just chalked it up to sleep paralysis. Lately, though, I'm not so sure.